This episode is brought to you by Greenlight. Get this. Adults with financial literacy skills have 82% more wealth than those who don't. From swimming lessons to piano classes, us parents invest in so many things to enrich our kids' lives. But are we investing in their future financial success? With Greenlight, you can teach your kids financial literacy skills like earning, saving, and investing. And this investment costs less than that after-school treat. Start prioritizing their financial education and future today with a risk-free trial at greenlight.com/Spotify. Greenlight.com/Spotify.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Come join us.
Hello, this is Cathy, and this is The Cinema, the podcast where my husband Dave and I record our walk home from the movies out every Sunday. But this is not that podcast. This is the mini-series where I and a guest every week discuss the latest episode of And Just Like That, because I just can't help myself. And today's guest is the fabulous Chelsea Devantez. She's an Emmy Award nominated writer, comedian, director, and host of one of my favorite podcasts, Glamorous Trash. Welcome, Chelsea.
I'm so thrilled to be here, and so this episode ran me over. I cannot believe you brought me here for the devastation that I just witnessed.
So you've not really been watching it this season, have you?
I tapped out of And Just Like That within the first season of them coming back. I probably made it like 5 episodes in. I said, bon voyage, have a good life without me. I'll see you in the clips. And so, yeah, so this was me coming back into the series, and I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe you did this to me.
And you haven't had what the rest of us have had, is like the slow destruction of Aiden's character. Like, we all hate him now, but you've just jumped in here. So how do you feel about coming back to Aiden without witnessing the horrors?
That is important context. So you guys have all been like a frog in a pot of boiling water. Like, it's slowly come on for you, whereas I have whiplash. I can't believe I'm here for the episode where Aiden and Carrie break up. I gotta say, I was on his side. And whatever happened in the previous episodes, I missed, because I'm sitting here being like, you literally ruined this man's life. You cheated on him. Cigarettes are disgusting. It does taste bad. You then married the guy you cheated on him with. And the only reason you came back to him is because he died. So if he's got some trust issues, I think that's fine. And you could maybe pop in for a steak, okay?
Yeah, I get it. And it's funny because I would have thought the same if I jumped in, but actually, honestly, this podcast has been an Aiden hit piece for the last 8 episodes, because he's become dystopian, dark, really controlling. And I don't know if you've seen all the think pieces now that are like, we're all reevaluating Aiden from the show. And like, wait, he was really controlling back in the day, and none of us kind of realized at the time.
Yeah, I do. What I really love from kind of a big outside perspective is that this show gets to show us that she didn't miss out on Aiden, and she did pick the right person, and they were never a match. And even when they came back together, it was never going to work, which I think is such a beautiful storyline to get to revisit with this sequel series. Do I think that's what was executed? No, but I think the idea was there.
It was, and like you're really lucky you kind of gave up on the rest of season 1, because like at the time I do remember saying it was like my worst TV show of the year. Season 2 was pretty dire. Season 3 has like been the best, and I say that as somebody who's maybe like got Stockholm syndrome now because I've been recapping it every week.
Are you okay? Are you checking in with a therapist for And Just Like That? Because this is the best.
Yeah, this podcast is my therapy. And also on this podcast we talk a lot about the Writers' Room podcast. Have you heard of it, with Michael Patrick King and the gang?
Wow. Yes, I am. So I have not listened to it, but I have listened to a deep dive writing series on Sex and the City. I'm a huge fan of the original series. Talk about it all the time, deconstruct the writing all the time. And I hope we can talk about some of that in this episode.
Well, this is why I need you on, an Emmy Award winning writer, because we need to talk about it. I think before we talk about Carrie and Aiden, because like, in reality, that's been the plot of the season and it's the plot of this episode, I think we might talk about the others first, get them out of the way, because they kind of had Yeah, they'd nothing to do.
Overall, I just want to say, being apart from this show and coming back into this episode, do you remember when Madonna suddenly showed up with a British accent? Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah, this is me, this is how I speak. And we're like, no, you didn't. And she's like, yeah, I've always been British. And you're like, no, we were there. You weren't. She's like, yeah, no, always been like this. That's what the show felt like. I came back in, I said, this is Sex and the City? You've gone Madonna British. Like, the shows are, it's just taken such a leap from what it once was. I'm talking like music, editing, the writing style. Like they just. Everything.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, I'm obsessed with the Road Newsroom podcast, and Michael Patrick King ties himself in knots trying to be like, this is the best season we've done, this is the most beautiful season, this is the most New York season, and I find this hilarious because in our Patreon, where we have a lot of chatter about it, everyone's saying, New York doesn't feature in this season anymore, it's just Carrie's fucking house. Like, that's all we see.
Also, I was living in New York in 2021 and 2022, and then I was living in upstate New York as recently as last year and going into the city a lot. That ain't what the city is like anymore, my friend. Pandemic changed some things, and he is featuring a New York City that looks like a set. I'm like, this isn't even the vibe anymore.
That's so interesting because I have no context like around New York, and I do think I actually had guests that I discovered through your podcast, Fixing Famous People, come on to recap episode
Chris
3.
DeRosa?
Yeah, Chris and Dom both came on.
What a dream.
It was so much fun, and they were talking about the fact that like where Carrie lives in Gramercy Park would be like a $6 million mansion, and just how fucking nuts it is that somebody lives there.
Yeah,
and she's not even furnished it. Like, if you've just come in now, you may not have realized she lives in an empty house.
Right, and which she like did for Aiden, even though he designs furniture. What? Does he not make furniture anymore?
It's so, and they do such like pale imitations of the original Sex and the City, which obviously we all kind of cling to. But like last week, there was like a fight between Carrie and Aiden in her closet, and it's like, okay, they're referencing the original kind of breakup between her and Aiden and around the closet, but it's such a pale imitation. It's kind of like depressing to get it. It's like an echo of something you once loved.
That is so true. Okay, are we going to get into the specifics of why now or later on why it is an echo?
I think we should get into the echo now. Why not? Go for it. I'd love to hear you.
Here's what struck me the most about this show, because Sex and the City is endlessly watchable, even though it has been off the air for 20 years. And I didn't realize this till recently, but when I started watching Sex and the City and was in love with it, it was a DVD set. It wasn't even airing anymore. And I didn't even know it. I was in college and we were just like, yeah, this show that's on. It wasn't even on anymore. So why does it hold up, right? Because you can also watch some episodes back and you're like, oh my God, wildly racist.
Problematic.
Yeah, like, but it still holds up in a certain fashion that it's watchable. And it's because they used to take, or in my opinion, they used to take a theme and they would explore a real sex or dating or New York City life theme, like, believing in the happy ending. And then they would each get a full A, B, and C story relating to that theme. And one of them would be like serialized relationship, usually Carrie, like an ongoing thing. But then Miranda and Charlotte would usually have like contained storylines. Like, I met a guy at Weight Watchers and can we swear on this episode?
Oh, yeah, I love the Weight Watchers episode.
Yeah, me too. And she's like, ew, he eats my pussy, gross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he's gone by the end of that episode. And then Samantha was usually one of the sexier like joke pitches, but she would have a whole storyline with like a sex swing. And then Carrie gets to tie it up in a little bow. Okay.
Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. Was Charlotte's entire storyline this episode that she fell down once?
Yeah. Like, that is it. Like, she has had one good episode in 8 episodes here, and it's like they don't know what to do with her. It's embarrassing.
But it's even like writing wise, falling down one time in one scene does not a beginning, middle, and end make. They didn't even show us I'm taking the meds, then coming back, I have fallen down, and then a third scene where she's like, and now I'm off the meds, whatever it was. I was just like, wait a minute. So we're not following a full storyline with her. The other, who's the new Samantha? What's her name?
Seema.
Okay. I love her character, but her entire storyline was I'm late for lunch.
Yeah, and I'm using new deodorant. Yeah, that was
so
hers.
That was two beats, and they're not related. I'm late for lunch, and I'm using new deodorant. Then we've got the Italian scene, which I guess that gets a little bit of a story beat, and you get Carrie and Aiden. But I'm just like, oh, you have entirely abandoned the idea of a theme about dating, threading through 4 characters. Her voiceover was only about herself, made no sense. And then why did they change the music? The music used to be like da-dum, 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 and like I know they have to do new music because it's a new show, but they chose to do dun doo beep boop boop.
It's so weird.
Ding, ding. And I'm like, why did you want awkward music?
Yeah. I love hearing you come back to this fresh because I have been too warped because they've been dragging shit plots over from previous episodes. So like last episode, Charlotte said, my vertigo's back, right? And then she fell over. And I was thinking, have we seen Charlotte a vertigo before? So of course I was immediately on forums and yeah, we've never seen her have it before. So the way they brought it up was strange. And then I listened to the Writers Room podcast, which is my drug, and they said, well, we all know people who vertigo, so we thought it would be interesting if Charlotte had vertigo. And that was it. That's like the entire motivation for the plot. And then we see it play out as Charlotte just like falling over, even though a few episodes ago, Harry was diagnosed with cancer, and Harry and Charlotte have had one beautiful
Harry's
scene.
got cancer?
So yeah, Harry's got cancer. That's why he was in bed talking about his balls. But they moved so fast. Like, that was, like, one beautiful scene between them where I was like, thank God these actors actually get to act. And it was really beautiful, and we were all really engaged and interested. And now it's just Harry's a clown. His balls are too big. He's falling over. Charlotte's falling over. There's, like, actual clown music playing.
That is so... Yeah, because... here's what I think is devastating about the show is that 20 years ago, it's like these women in their late 30s are fucking and getting down. And you're telling me that when you turn 50, the only storylines are that everyone's dying, everyone has cancer, I'm falling down, and I'm wearing deodorant. Like, I don't want to believe that is what life is. I want to believe that. And these are the women who are supposed to be fucking and fashion and life. Yeah. And this show is making me feel like we're in an elderly home.
Yeah.
With Charlotte's
you're right.
storyline.
And it's funny because one of the listeners messaged me this week to say, okay, like, fine, we were getting Miranda exploring her sexuality. They've just ended that now. She's in a monogamous relationship. Everyone else is in a couple. Seema's our only dater. And now she seems to be kind of hooked up with this guy who's quite sweet. Fine. But, like, we have no casual sex in the show. There was episode 1, which you missed, was Miranda hooked up with Rosie O'Donnell, who played a nun. And that was really
that
fun.
sounds amazing.
It was really fun. She was called Mary. She was a nun. And everyone got really excited. Oh, like, Miranda's are going to have different, like, dating every episode now, you know? That was it. We went from the nun to this character Joy, which is, like, fine. But we don't, like, we had Steve. We don't need to see Miranda now settle down.
Yeah, also, oh my God. Or like, why couldn't we see it through a queer lens of how that might look different than it looked with Steve? Listen, I've only come in for this episode. I said, Che's gone. They're probably all afraid to repeat a horrible queer character. Okay, so they've just made this nice Lady Joy. But when she's like, I'm an alcoholic. Actually, I threw it away. I thought that was really well done. Very sadly, I've witnessed someone else being like, I threw it away. And I was like, who then came out to be an alcoholic to me in my personal life. And I was like, oh, she probably drank it. Apparently, Miranda really did throw it down the trash chute.
Last episode.
But then she's like, I don't know if I'm okay with being with someone sober because I have drinks because I hate myself. And they were like, awesome.
Yeah, they were like, great, we both have baggage. And I thought, no, what?
No.
Come
And
back
also,
to this.
your baggage doesn't match. So one of you does drink and the other doesn't. This is actually going to be a lot. And also, I want fucking. Sex in the City was so fun. It would pick an issue like men don't know how to call you anymore. Or it would pick an issue like why can't sex just be for fun? And they're not exploring any topics.
Yeah,
and
nothing.
They're basically being like, yeah, everyone's in like a decrepit corpse with dry vages.
Oh my! Like their only like kink, if you would call it that we've seen, possibly in all 3 seasons, but definitely this season, is like, oh, Seema's boyfriend doesn't like deodorant, and like, I mean, it was a bit strange that he actually put her deodorant on his lips.
Okay, wow. So this is okay. So a deodorant storyline was started in previous episodes and was wrapped up in one scene in the episode I just saw.
Exactly. It started in the previous episode when he was like in her armpits. And it was kind of fun because we saw him naked. He was cute. We saw a first naked butt of the season that wasn't Miranda's. So like this is how hard it's gotten out here, Chelsea. Like this is the kind of stuff that we're like, okay, we got one
They should be showing us
naked butt.
schlongs every episode.
Yeah, there's like there's no, it's a sexless show, and it's by design. Like, I mean, Carrie's just not having sex anymore, so we'll see her and Aiden like close the door. Like, that's about as good as it gets. Yeah,
I think that's contractually, she's like, no bouncing, no tits, no bra.
Absolutely not. Like, she was always like the one in the bra because she was the most famous in the original show. But now, excepting Miranda, who I love, it will just always get them out. Like, they're all, fairly buttoned up. Charlotte and Harry completely buttoned up. Like, there's been some erectile dysfunction plots that they played for laughs this season, but then I thought were quite insensitive because he actually had cancer. The episode Chris and Dom came on and we talked about, like, they were in a club and Harry was pissing himself. And that was the episode I reviewed at Chris and Dom. And we were like, is he really sick? Because if he is, it's not sensitive. And if he's not sick, it's still not really funny that he's just pissed himself in a nightclub.
Everything you say is so horrifying. I am so horrified. And I'm so sad. I'm so sad because this remains one of our only ensemble dating shows with a group of women. And they're not dating.
And that box set you talked about, like, I did watch it when it was airing, actually. Like, I was quite young, but I was watching it, and it was quite the hit in Ireland, where we were in a very sexless society, where we, no abortions, or we'd barely just gotten contraception, so it was really exciting. But it was, when it came out on DVD, I think it was that moment, like, for me, it was the first box set I ever owned. Yeah. And I was in uni as well, and I think it got such a second life on DVD, and I think that is partially why we got those terrible movies then.
Oh yeah, which you want to hear something so sad? Women-led comedies are so there's just so few of them that both Sex and the City films rank in the top 20 female comedy films of all time. Now, I want everyone to remember the second movie. Okay, really think about that second movie. It is in our top 20 comedic female-led films. That is brutal.
It's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life.
Of all time.
Yeah.
And even that, better than the episode I just watched.
It's so funny. I love that I'm coming at this going, this episode wasn't that bad.
Wow.
And you're like,
I'm so horrified. I'm so horrified at what I've seen. I also just... Okay, I know you want to go character by character.
No, I don't. You go. Okay. I'm happy. Yeah.
Okay.
We've kind of just basically said everything there is to say about the other characters.
Well, can we talk about Patti LuPone?
Yeah, please. Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that she doesn't really have an Italian accent. That's what we're going with.
That was so that was referenced a few episodes ago that she'd moved to Italy when she was like 18 and married this older man, and she like never really moved back. But, like, she is speaking with an Italian accent.
And
then
a pretty
she, like,
bad one. So now I'm realizing, like, oh, she was doing a bad accent on purpose. But I'm coming in cold to the episode, and I said, Patti LuPone, one of the greatest actors of all time, like, what they do to her? Why are they making her pretend to be Italian? She has the Italian accent that I would do if you asked me to do one right now.
Yeah, and it would be offensive.
Very offensive. And I was like, this is crazy. Then she drops the accent. I said, okay. I said, we should also drop the wig then. Take that horrible wig off as well if we're really going for it. And at least that was a full storyline of my son's not good enough for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm cutting him off. Goodbye.
Yeah, that was actually one of the better scenes. And I don't get the Anthony thing, right? Because so you're coming in cold to him. Was it Sex and the City 1 where Anthony was like had this really, really lavish wedding to Stamford?
I don't know when it was, but it did happen. For some reason, I feel like it's Sex and the City season 5.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
Anyway, it was a huge lavish thing.
Yes.
And also, he was this huge wedding planner, right? Because he planned Charlotte and Trey's wedding, which was like a huge deal.
Yes.
And now in this season, for your reference, he's not a wedding planner. He's opened a bread shop.
Okay.
And it's like the central perk of the show where they all go and eat bread at Anthony's shop. And it kind of makes no sense. And now we discover in this scene that he lives in this actually really small rent-controlled apartment. So I'm like, what happened, Anthony? Where did his money go?
Also, how did you get a rent-controlled apartment post-divorce? Because those are not the years where you would divorce and then find a rent-controlled place. Yeah, you would have had to have had that going into the marriage. Where's Stanley?
Yeah, he in real life, the actor died. So the character, yeah. I know.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he passed away. So in the show, they didn't kill him off, though. They did a strange plot where he went to live in, like, a Buddhist temple. I don't know what they're doing.
What are we doing?
Yeah, it's a bit of the opposite of the John Corbett situation. Sorry, not John Corbett, Chris Noth.
Yeah.
And they were so you would have been watching when Chris Noth was like killed off on screen, obviously.
I did see that, yes.
that was
I
episode
remember
1.
the Peloton murder.
Yeah. And what you missed then, luckily, after you gave up on episode 5, is like the entire season of Carrie just like being profoundly depressed as you would be if the love of your life died. But like it never worked in the context of this show. We weren't in the right place for that. It didn't really work.
I have to say, like, every time I hear top lines about the show or think about it, I'm like, this should work. Like, a very real issue would be, and a great way to get her dating again, is like, how do you date through grief as a woman in New York City, putting your life back together? If you, as I'm sure he did, pitch that, I go, amazing way to start the show again.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing that it didn't work in execution, but it's like, that's how I feel about every storyline in the show, where I'm like, her revisiting Aiden and seeing if they missed out on the one should be an unbelievable storyline.
Yeah.
What do you think is going wrong?
It's a funny one, like because I agree that it was such a great way to bring the show back and kill big because it caused such a buzz. And the episode that you missed on the opener of season 3, which was quite something, and I say there's no sex in this show. So episode 1 of season 3, we meet Carrie and Aiden, who at the end of season 2 have made this funny agreement where they're not going to be together for 5 years because he's like raising his kids in the countryside.
Okay.
And we're all thinking, what does that mean? And turns out they don't know what it means. So they come back season 3, episode 1, and he phones her out of the blue, which is at the start of everyone saying it's a bit inappropriate. He said we've boundaries, we're not to speak. Then he phones her one night. He's like horny out in his truck, and he starts like fully whacking off in the truck, and it's so gross. John Corbett's like licking his hand. Like,
Wait,
it
it's
was
gross.
horrific.
It's not hot. We don't see the
not
like
hot.
maybe the top of the peen
It's
where the
nothing.
shaft
It's-
starts. No? That's an okay shot, you know.
It was him licking his own hand
Gross,
and like
come
kind
on.
of
No
grunting,
way.
and no one was into it. So
Was Carrie coming?
No, Carrie was faking it on the other end. Yeah, she was confused as to why he was calling her. It broke their boundaries. It was a great way to come back because, you know, it's like the episode that sparked 1,000 memes. And then as the series has gone on, Aiden keeps like fucking around with this arrangement. Like he'll pop in when it suits him, doesn't pop in. And then a couple of episodes ago, he admitted to Carrie that he had just slept with his ex-wife, Cathy. So he basically slept with his ex-wife. And then you're coming into this episode where you're like, oh, she deserves it. But she actually was really, really nice to him because she said, look, we never said we were exclusive.
Okay.
We haven't agreed our boundaries.
Did
So
he feel like he was cheating?
He did, yeah. He felt really bad.
So then why is he mad at her for talking to some author guy? Wow.
That's why.
Wow.
And they've even like, I think they want to make it that we all hate Aiden now. And I don't quite know, because I feel like a more nuanced thing would have been if we just were like, you know what, 2 adults can come back together and it mightn't work out. Like Carrie was the bad guy first time around, Aiden's the bad guy this guy, but I would have liked to see neither of them are the bad guy. And it just didn't work out because, as you say, he's her fucking second pick. She married the love of her life. Like,
yeah,
like,
and I would love to see how you come back from that. Like, how do you? He gets divorced. She married someone else. Like, can you ever feel like each other's true number one? Which again is if we're doing a police sketch drawing of this episode, that is what that is. Just not in the details. I also think, like, thinking back to it, they were never a match. He would be like, come to a cabin with me. And the whole episode was her being like, oh, oh, dog. It's like, not a match. Yeah, not a match. And I would love to see trying to force a match that was never going to be.
I want to see her, like, because so she did a couple of things, like where she went to Aiden's house in the countryside a few episodes ago, and she was kind of around him and his kids, and he was honestly like just very strange the entire time and like weird about his kids and stuff. And he sends them to like wilderness camps, and he forces them to like paint the house when they just want to like hang out with their friends or whatever. Like, he comes across really poorly there as well.
Wilderness camps, sir. Have you read Paris Hilton's memoir? Don't trust a wilderness camp with your child.
Somebody in your Patreon made the very same comment in the chats.
Really? Well, I think it's an important comment. You shouldn't be sending your kids to wilderness learning camps. Send them, make sure they all go to musical theater camp.
So that's been the Aiden vibe. So, like, to get into their plot in this episode, what is very interesting is, like, what do you think of the neighbor downstairs, Duncan?
Okay, so the guy whose book she's helping really lives downstairs. That makes sense. I was like, why is he knocking on this door? I think if they're setting him up to be a love interest, a big swing and a miss,
Really?
That's for me. Yeah. All he did this episode was be like, "Hello, I smoke cigars." Like he does nothing. Like I'm not seeing any muscles. I'm not seeing any jokes. Aiden seems to have had a lot of work done. That looks pretty. Whatever he did to whatever lasers he did, I wish he would drop that intel. Let me say this. Mm-hmm. If I was dating a man in my 30s who I fucking loved, he cheated on me, brought nasty nicotine into my mouth, then married the woman he cheated on, and only came back to me when she died, I would punish him every day of his life. So I might always be Team Aiden. I don't care. She deserves it. But I've always thought Carrie's the fucking worst, man. She was the worst the first go around. She's the worst now. Like she's a selfish person. She's a selfish friend. And I don't know. Are you a Carrie fan?
This is brilliant because you're the first. So this is episode 9. In 8 episodes, all we've had is Aiden bashing. So I'm really glad, much like the BBC, I try and be impartial. And I'm thrilled to have you here. I think with Carrie, no, I've never wanted to hang out with her. But I've always loved her as a TV character because her very selfishness is what makes her interesting.
She's a great character. Yeah, and I think it makes the show really good because she makes mistakes and she messes up and things like that. But in terms of being like, wow, she's so great. No, Samantha's so great. She fucks when she wants. She makes a lot of money. She gets hot guys. She falls in love when he's just that good, right? That's the best. Carrie makes a lot of mistakes. And so and then those shirts where it'd be like, I'm a Carrie, I'm a Samantha, I'm a Charlotte, I'm a whatever. I think that is the true test of a show and a character because when Girls came around, nobody wanted an I Am Marnie shirt. You know what I mean? But we did want it for those 4 characters. And I think revisiting Carrie as she's older, we only see that she's always been the worst.
Yeah. And she has always been really selfish. Like you've missed some clangers this season. But like what's been interesting is with Aiden, she has been trying really hard. Like he's like, I slept with Cathy. She's like, okay. He's got this really annoying plot with the teenage son who's like, just the worst, and she's like really nice about this teenage son. And Aiden, like, which you won't have seen, but like at the beginning when they weren't speaking, but he'd send her like empty postcards from Virginia, and that's what was on her fridge at the end that she started taking down, to which I was laughing my head off. I'm like, is this all we have? Like empty fucking postcards.
Is fiction, my friend. This is fiction. Like give us a storyline to aspire to. Like there was no world in Sex and the City where they could afford those outfits, afford those shoes. She's a columnist, right? With like maybe a book or 2. And yet we believed in it. We loved it. It was aspirational. This show, I just like that, is almost like being like, you fucking idiot. You thought life was good, you dumbasses. Life sucks, you idiots. I will say, at least she is still serving weird fashion. Like that corset, that giant fucking hat. Like, at least they're still doing that.
I love, like, I enjoy her clothes. And I think Sarah Jessica Parker has always maintained consistency around how the character, should look and feel. And like Charlotte's just dressed like ludicrously, like a doll or something. Miranda, they're trying to do... She's wearing a lot of jumpsuits this season.
That feels
and like
right.
Lisa Todd Wexley, who you only would have seen literally talking about Ozempic with her husband this week, which I rolled my eyes.
I forgot about that story. Yeah. That is... So he's walking around being like, I can't gain weight. And it's like, wait, what? And also, why are we focused on his waistline? Like, this is a show for the gals.
Mm-hmm. And there's been a good plot with her the previous few weeks where she's got this really hot editor because she's making a documentary. And they're like kind of flirting in the audio booth, and he's hot, and we're kind of praying, well, I say me,
that we have an affair.
That they have an affair.
Yes.
And I'm all ready to go on the affair. And then we get this shit this week about her husband and the Ozempic, and I'm like, no, I don't care about her husband and his angel hair pasta. I care about her fucking her editor.
I wonder if they're trying to have her fuck her editor and make him unlikable with pasta and Ozempic so that we're rooting for her. What they don't know is that we're already rooting for her to jump on that new dick. I haven't even seen him, Cathy, and I would really like her to have an affair with him.
He's the hottest man in the show, by the way.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, he's hot. But back to Duncan, right? This is so funny because there's been no one in this show that's hot other than this editor character. Like,
his name's Duncan.
Everyone is shipping
again,
Duncan.
like, why are they doing that, right? We're bringing in a hottie. We've named him Duncan. What are these choices? Okay, keep going.
Aiden keeps saying Dunkin' Donuts to try and diminish him. But like, I mean, I think he's hot, but I've always tended to favor the bookish, nerdy types. But you won't have the context. This is so funny, right? So he rents this apartment 6 months of the year below Carrie. I think she's his landlord. It's not clear. He is like the world's best biography writer, right? He writes the best biographies. Everyone in the world knows him, right? He is writing Margaret Thatcher's biography. So the book he's getting notes from Gary on is
Margaret Thatcher's biography?
So when she's talking about a 10-year-old girl, she's talking about, like, I could, honestly, Chelsea, I was laughing my head off.
Shook. So this man in his biography is personifying Margaret Thatcher when she's 13 years old and writing in her voice, because honestly, that's not a biography. That's not what biographies. They're very non-fictional. That is so why they know better.
And we haven't gotten into Chelsea's podcast yet because I'm going to talk about it at the end, but Chelsea like primarily reviews celebrity memoirs. And I wish that we could get this biography for you. I know it's not a memoir. I know it's a biography.
I would make an exception for the Margaret Thatcher fictional biography from Dunkin' Donuts.
Do we think that Carrie's ever heard of Margaret Thatcher before? Like, serious question.
Ooh, great question. I'm going to say yes, because she was at least like a joke name for a while, I think, in years when Carrie was coming up as a writer. Let me say this. In what season? No, so it was and just like that, it was the first season back. Oh, yeah, she's on a podcast. And
oh God, the podcast was so bad.
Yeah. Oh my God. From one podcaster to another. Big fucking yikes if that's where Carrie ended up. Yikes. So whoever she was dating at the time, as some beautiful, like everything is blurred in my mind, but as some beautiful gesture, he was like, I've downloaded Writer's Draft. Let's open up that ad they want you to do and let's rewrite it so like you can do that ad. That is a $79 to $200 software. The software only writes screenplays. There is no fucking world where you need it, where you should download it, or where when one person is speaking a 30-second vagina ad that they need your screenplay software. That's not even how the ads get delivered to us, Cathy. They are a Word doc. It's Google Docs. It's free.
Funny.
So in moments like that, you're like, so there's no way she's a writer. There's no way he's a writer. Also, what are the writers doing writing this?
Yeah.
You know what? Good for them. They must not have ever had to be a podcaster. That writer's room has never been podcasters, and we love that for them.
They don't understand how it works either, because she refused to do this one vagina ad in that episode. And then he was her producer, I think, but he was hot and they vaguely dated. The entire podcast network crashed. Now, I don't believe podcast networks hinge on one vagina ad.
Wait, that's how it ended? She didn't do the vagina ad and the network crashed?
Yeah, that was the plot. And it went out of business.
So they were like exactly $100,000 due for rent. She didn't get the ad money and it went away. That is so...
And it's like, this is Carrie Bradshaw. Like, in the world of this show, she is iconic. She's been in Vogue. She's had all these books. She wrote this big grief memoir. Like, she can... make a podcast. And the funny thing is, you know, you can make a podcast without a sponsor, because all you actually need, which is what I'm doing right now, is a microphone in your spare bedroom. Like, you don't need a podcast network. So she gave up so fast on this dream.
Oh, wow. Also, you know, the real Candace Bushnell just wrote a piece about being like, I'm 60 in the Hamptons. I want to be single. Like, everyone leave me alone. And like, let me live. Let me live my like amazing, beautiful life and don't talk to me. It's also kind of sad. I think the article was titled like, I'm invisible now, like something devastating. Okay. However, I'd rather see that storyline. I'd rather see Carrie be like, I'm living in the Hamptons, having a luxurious life with my girlfriends. I mean, the scene in this episode, those women only got together to chat in the last 12 seconds under a VO. They never said shit to each other. They never connected. Like, only 4 of them are there, which then distinctly makes her a Samantha replacement versus, like, there's multiple friends. I think the panic of, like, everyone gets a person of color as a friend in the revamp, like, messed them up because the intention was good, but again, the execution was just rough. And, like, if we're replacing Samantha, you really should move the group to 5 people or move it down to 3. But if you were going to one her, it's just such a bummer.
Yeah, they did it because they brought in Lisa Todd Wexley, to give her full title. So we didn't see her at the end. She wasn't with the 4. So there's technically 5, but you never really see Lisa Todd Wexley and Seema together because they're not friends. So you typically only see 3 or 4. They sometimes have Anthony as a main character, sometimes not. And then in the previous season, they also had somebody called Naya, who was like a professor of law.
Yes, I remember
her from
Naya.
Season 1? Yeah,
And I gotta say, she was a great actress, but when she wasn't on this season, I was like, I think that's correct, because Miranda was like, I'm very racist to you. And then she's like, we should be friends, girlfriends. And it's like, I don't need that storyline. Neither
Remember
does
when
Naya.
Miranda was like microaggressing her? And
Also,
then
Miranda is the smartest character on the show.
Yeah.
You guys, Charlotte might do that, not Miranda.
And like the show used to be too white, but New York wasn't too white. Like Miranda will have the character will have interacted with people who weren't white before 2020.
No. She walks up to people and she goes, my name's Miranda. Are you
like,
not white?
Can I touch your hair? Because it looks amazing. It's so fun.
It's also the touch your hair thing is like if you don't know anything, you at least know that. You're telling me Miranda missed 50 years of being alive?
Like, it's so fun. Like they have corrected on that, like reduced. I'm glad to see the reduced numbers, but they haven't really meshed the Lisa Todd Wexley. Her and Charlotte have had some lovely scenes together this season, actually, which I've really liked. And then Seema and Carrie, as you see, had a nice scene started out a bit in Seema's new office, because Seema's opening her own office.
Right,
And she, yeah.
From
that was
we
silly.
work
That
to
was,
she work.
that was again, that's 10 years out of date, that reference. Like
I know.
we talked about last week with my guest Caroline that like the cultural references, like it used to lead on culture and now it just lags so far behind.
It used to tackle things in the zeitgeist that we were afraid to discuss as a culture, like, I don't know, swallowing cum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, are we doing it or not? And yeah, it is interesting that they're not even pulling out threads that are happening to us now, like breadcrumbing or being so being so online that you don't actually make it to a date.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Or the idea of like men who will just chat with you and chat with you and chat. There's so many little pieces they could pull out. I also think if you were to go back and write a PhD thesis, as we will do, Cathy, on the original series, and anyone who does it, they always come to the conclusion that the real heart of the show are these friends. It's not the sex. It's these 4 women as friends. And with this show, you'd be like, no, it's sadness. Like, it's not friendship and it's not fucking. They don't talk to each other. Well, here's the thing. I've only seen one episode, but I'm ready to stand behind this theory. It's like, why not show a group of women as friends when you turn 50? That'd be so cool. And instead, in my episode, we don't even get to hear her tell them that I dumped Aiden's ass.
I know. And like she didn't even walk in and they all hug her as if she's pre-told them. Like
No.
it's even interesting with her and Seema when she says to Seema, like, I cheated on Aiden with John. And I guess she won't use the word big to Seema because she's a newer friend. But I thought, oh, that's so interesting. You're such good friends, but you've never even mentioned that to her. Like, that's quite a big event in your and Aiden's relationship.
Such a good point.
And after Aiden cheated on her, or so-called cheated on her with Cathy a few episodes, she never told anyone. So what I find interesting about this version of Carrie is she's been very buttoned up all season. She's stone-faced. Miranda made a comment a few weeks ago about how she was a bit flirty with her neighbor, and she was vicious to Miranda after that comment in a way that I like, because they've often kind of rubbed off each other, and she was not listening. So it's interesting that you've come back to this episode where she finally loses at him, because we've been kind of like, hello, is anyone home? Like, what's happening, Carrie? She's lost her zest for life, her spark. Even like she's writing this book, right? And again, you may not have this context. So the reason her and Duncan swap books is she's writing a romantasy book.
About Margaret Thatcher as a fairy wizard fucking people?
No, she's more like historical fiction.
Okay.
And so she always writes, it's the world's worst book. It's about the woman. So the woman is always called the woman.
Okay.
It's always basically presenting what Carrie's doing in that episode, but she'll say things like, it was 1845, or she was wearing bonnets, or she was wearing a petticoat. Like, that would be dipped in and out of the...
Okay.
And then that's why I think this episode is called Present Tense, because she says something in the end about, like, the woman was living in the past and no, she couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Like, have any future.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's her book. But, like, the feedback she got from Duncan was hysterical. So when Duncan read the first chapter, like, we were all pissing ourselves. I can't wait to hear what Duncan has to say about this. And Duncan said, it's fantastic.
No.
It's propulsive. I can't put it down. And I'm like, you can't put the book about the woman who looked out a train carriage in 1845 down. And it's so funny because I'm going to talk about your book later, but I laughed so hard when I was thinking about how I described your book earlier because the word propulsive came to mind and I thought, I can't use it though because Duncan's using it about Gary's book. But
I'll know that it's just the way to say the worst book I've ever read. Propulsive.
So that's been there, like, it's kind of an interesting relationship in fairness. Like, I think he's never read women's fiction, first of all, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. She clearly has never read a biography. So it's kind of funny that they're giving each other these notes and he's all bookish. But you can see why Aidan would have been so jealous because Aidan and Carrie essentially have nothing in common except that they, I think, like having sex with each other and they have a shared sense of history. So, like, some of the stuff when he said, you know, like at the beginning, she's so pissed off and she finds him with the pipe and Duncan, and that's all because of last episode. He kept saying, let's invite Duncan up for dinner because he's jealous, and she's been saying no. And
but that's fucking weird. I get that we hate Aidan, but since I'm new to it, you're like, hey, cheater who cheated on me and married the man she cheated on you with, since you're spending time downstairs with possibly your tenant who's around my age, who looks like he could maybe fuck you, could I meet him? And she says no. Sus as hell.
That is such a good point because she's like, I've drawn this boundary. He's not a friend. We just talk about books. And yeah, it's interesting to get your perspective because I found him very dismissive about it. But when he came down about the T-bone steaks, like, that was cringe, right? When he was like, let me make you some steaks, buddy. I got T-bone steaks. And he had like 8 steaks up in the kitchen.
It was a lot of steak. And listen, as a vegetarian, like, you know, I'm like, okay, this is a lot. And also you just like left the fucking wet meat out all night. Like, that's disgusting. Yeah, we've all made bad decisions in this episode. I gotta tell you, because they didn't discuss dinner, I thought it was quite nice. I'd like to be friends. I'm going to make you dinner. I'll leave it here for you. I'm trying to connect with the woman I love. Meanwhile, she's like, get the fuck out of here. I'd be like, okay, then you're sucking his dick right now. And maybe I'm a jealous hoe too, but I just keep trying to put myself in his position. And I would also be like, hey, you want a coffee? I got it. The barista gave me an extra one for free. Didn't want to waste it. Duncan, like, I would check in too. And I thought, and then he's like, hey, you want to meet at our favorite place? Also, the fact that she came in, she smelled like smoke and got next to him. I'd be like, yeah, get away from me too. Like,
I felt like that was very triggering because, you know, the way in the past she like hid her smoking from him and they had that whole scene and I felt like the tone he used was so nasty. Like,
yeah, because she declined dinner.
So in the previous episode,
she didn't even let him leave a steak for her. He's mad. He's left the steaks out to like get flies to greet her in the morning.
Disgusting.
I will also say, when you date, this is why they shouldn't have been together. When you date a smoker, and so I have a strong aversion to smoking because of my stepdad. And my stepdad got my mom into it, and my mom would hide her smoking. And it just grosses me out. I can't date a smoker because I'll be like, it'll be like my stepdad has come in. Like,
right, yeah. I mean, the smell can bring a lot back.
Yeah.
It's such an intense smell. But smoking bans, we don't get it that much anymore.
Yeah, but he has made that clear. I hate it. It disgusts me, right?
Yeah.
She spends 8 hours around it and then comes and lays on him. Like, yeah, it's gross. Why don't you, if you know he hates it, spray some perfume on, chew some gum. You're getting ready for your lover. He's already mad at you for declining his meat. Do something.
Yeah. It's so funny because, like, full disclosure, I've been lusting over Duncan on this podcast. And I don't smoke and I hate smoking too. And I even said this.
What are you going to do, Cathy? How are you going to kiss this man?
I want Carrie to pick up the pipe. Like, we and my previous guest, Brenda, who I think we did episode 6 or 7, we were kind of fantasizing about a sex scene where Carrie and Duncan are like smoking the pipe in bed, like her and Big style. Because that's how boring this season has been.
I was going to say, given this show, they would probably smoke, do one thrust, and then be like, oh, I'm so old, my arteries, you're having a heart attack, take me to the ambulance.
Yeah, he'd probably die, actually. And
absolutely.
It's just one final thing on my prosecution case against Aidan. So in the last episode, he's like, I'm never coming up to you. I can't see you for 5 years, all this shit. And then in the last episode, he arrives unannounced at her door.
Oh, okay.
He says, I'm here for a month. He gave her no warning. And he shows up and starts like kind of spying out the window on Duncan. And he says, oh, the reason I'm not here for a month is because my kid's angry at me and he's gone to live with my ex-wife.
Okay.
So he's basically shows up unannounced in the previous episode and tried to get her and got her to cancel a writing session in the previous episode. So this episode, she was like, okay, I really have to do the session because I canceled it for you yesterday. So that was kind of the backdrop.
So he's in her house and she sleeps in her own guest room?
Well, that was her being angry. I enjoyed that.
I get that.
Yeah.
I came into this believing they'd been dating all season. So you're saying this man just got here, took over her bedroom,
Yeah, exactly.
and he just showed up the previous episode? Yeah, okay, he can fall off.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't have this important context. I just assumed they'd been dating.
You would assume. Yeah, they've been kind of like fucking around, meeting each other for a night here or there. He arrived with bags last week, and people are like fully speculating that it was like the bones of his ex-wife and child. That's how far the Aiden trash has gone.
Okay, wow.
Anyway, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to discuss more Carrie and Aiden.
Amazon One Medical presents Painful Thoughts.
I've been on hold to make a doctor's appointment for 23 minutes now. The automated voice has told me 47 times that my call is very important to them. I'm starting to think that they don't think my call is important at all.
With Amazon One Medical 24/7 virtual care, you'll get help fast without having to remain on the line to make an appointment. Amazon One Medical. Healthcare just got less painful.
When in the morning, though, this is where I was like, I suddenly sat up and thought, oh my God, I'm really glad Chelsea's come on for this episode, because you've come in for the most explosive scene of the series, which isn't saying much, when he's like, I'm going for a walk. And she's like, I'm going for a fucking walk. This is where I started going, okay. And it finally felt like I was watching The Real Carrie Bradshaw when he says, I've been thinking about what happened, what you said, and I do have trust issues. And she says, have or had. And suddenly I was like, this is a kind of semantic
That's
fight.
the present tense. Present tense, past tense.
I can get behind this fight. Like, finally, they're actually going at it. Like, even when he said I slept with Cathy, she was like, okay.
Yeah. And also the immediate callback. The show was always a little corny in the best way, where he's like, wait a minute, you are 100% in, or you were 100% in? Like, you know.
I love that.
Absolutely. Now, did we love that she goes to a department store in New York City that looks like a Dillard's in LA. That's how big it is. And it is the busiest department store in the shoe section. Have you been to a mall lately? Like, they're empty. I was like, whoa, there's 50 people shopping for shoes at like whatever Gramercy Park store you've walked into. And then Andy Cohen as a shoe salesman. I loved that.
I thought it was him, but because we're watching this ahead of time.
Wait a minute.
You
This
can't
isn't
Google.
a season runner?
He hasn't been in it yet.
So that was his cameo, and we got half the side of his head?
Yeah. I
That
literally
is a
rewinded
swing
and thought,
and a fucking miss. We need a clear shot, and you got to put it on the socials to promote the app.
He's just like, sorry, Carrie, I'm busy. It's like, what is the point of this scene?
Him being a shoe salesman is so funny. I truly believed we must have been seeing him every episode. That is so brutal.
You thought it was a recurring plot where she just like constantly
she's
buys
like,
shoes.
because she's like, just looking today. Like, I thought they were going to be like having chats every episode with like her favorite shoe guy.
Nothing. And it's so funny because she's writing this quote unquote historical fiction. And I was chatting about it last week with my guest Caroline, where we were saying, but she doesn't do any research, right? She just writes this shitty historical fiction in her house. And Caroline had the best pitch, right? Which is where Carrie goes to the New York Public Library and she's meeting characters there. She's researching, she's investigating, the city. Carrie just sits, like, it's so sad. Like, her world has become so small. Like, she just sits in this empty mansion. And, like, it's like you say, it's like a sadness thing. Like, her and her friends don't even talk about things like menopause, like physical things that will be happening women at this age. They don't talk about, I don't know.
But
they don't go to the
they always
fucking
used to
movies
like, they
together.
would go to hot restaurants, hot clubs.
Yeah.
Remember the it's like club bed, and like every
love that
seat in the
episode.
club is a bed. And I mean, they could be doing that for yes, the public library thing, which also libraries need our love right now. That would have been amazing. Or they could do the post pandemic tech surge of like, we really just want to have like gatherings and be intimate with each other, and like, let's get in each of these women's houses. And
Yeah,
like,
they're not doing any of that.
They're not doing anything.
They
They're
don't
doing
feel like-
nothing that if there's 5 pillars of what we loved about the original show, they're not doing any of them. Sex, friendship, dating, zeitgeist, like trendy cultural issues, and hot new New York spots. None of them.
No, I think because they tried to be like quote unquote trendy and cultural in season 1, and it was such a catastrophic flop for them that they've just like in season 1 they had all the racism plots, they had like the non-binary queer stuff, and they had the alcoholism plot, and after that they went, we're done now. We are done. Yeah, they even only brought back Miranda's alcoholism plot like last week. It had been entirely absent, and one of my guests earlier in the season, Brenda, who's in recovery and in AA, was saying an AA character would not just never talk about their drink problem again. Yeah. So I'm glad to see they have brought that up, because it was getting like absurd.
And but sober dating is a real thing. I have friends who are sober who do not tell the person they're dating that they are sober for as long as they can, because it ruins the relationship. And again, I think that's maybe what they were doing this episode, but not.
Yeah, it didn't work quite as well. Like, I feel like they could have teased it out a bit more. And Joy's very kind of expressionless, so it's such a deadpan situation between the two of them. Like, this, like her, like, I know people didn't like Che, fine, and I had some issues, but like, at least Che's a bit of fun. Like, Sarah Ramirez is a great actress. Like, this, I just like, and I like Joy, and I think the actress is fine, but there's no fun there. And I think for me, it's the fun that misses so much. And like, sorry to reference back to Carrie and Aiden again, but to like close it off, did you kind of get the reference at the end when he said, he said, is it was, or are you 100% in? And she says was. I can't give you any more than I have. It wasn't enough. Now, granted, you missed all of that, so this line maybe didn't resonate. And there's all of the family stuff, and I'm sorry, but there is. Now, here she's referencing to the fact that he's just shagged his ex-wife and that his son is a nightmare, right? But, like, that's it. And then he says, I need 100%. She says, so do I. And he says, I really thought we were going to make it this time. And she says, I'm sad too, and they hug. Now, I do think this is a reference to that fountain scene in season 4 where they're hugging at the fountain and they break up after Charlotte's wedding. But I had no emotional reaction to this break-up. Did you? Like, zilch.
Well, now that I'm learning so much more about Aiden, I couldn't believe I'd come back in for them to just like be throwing the Aiden relationship away. Now, he said we can't be together for 5 years, then showed up unannounced, and then they broke up. Like, fuck them both. Like, like I absolutely, I cared more when watching it. Now that I've spoken to you, I could care less.
Yeah, you were crying. And like, it's so funny. We were talking last week about like his weird spray tan, and I think they've gone a bit like Rod Stewart with the highlights. Like, he's
had more work than any of the women on the show, which, like, listen, love a patriarchy flip, but was it purposeful? I don't know.
Yeah, he's not quite like the Aiden we fell in love with.
No, the true Aiden would be aging in the wilderness with beautiful man wrinkles.
Yeah, I feel like, and even like he is super rich. Like when we saw his house, like everyone in the show, his wealth made no sense. Like he ain't living in a rugged cabin anymore. And then she goes home and takes the postcards off the fridge, which had me howling with laughter because these postcards were the worst plot of the whole season. And that's saying a lot. And then she like plays with her cat and listens to Taylor Swift. And again, that just felt so out of date, that reference.
Oh, right, with single cat lady.
Yeah. And then she kind of closes out with the gals in the
10-second far away panning out
and we
shot.
need her. We need to cut to me and Aiden broke up. Like that, I want to cut to that scene of them over brunch and her telling them, because we still don't know how Carrie's reacting because she's been so po-faced this entire season.
We don't know how Charlotte got up off the floor to go meet her.
We don't know if Seema got through that meeting without smelling.
The loose ends. And did her husband go on Zempic? Like,
yeah, like this. It's so funny because the Carrie and Aiden stuff is so fun that you came back for, and hilarious that you had that perspective. But I feel like in the show's defense, there's been better episodes about the other characters, but you'll never see them because I'm sure you'll never watch it again after this episode.
No. I'm not coming back. I'm going to watch Sex and the City too before I watch another episode.
It's such an infinite binge, though. I feel like any day of the week, any time, I can turn on any episode of Sex and the City, and it's like a glorious half an hour.
I recently did a Sex and the City rewatch and a girl's rewatch and a girlfriend's rewatch. I was actually working and I had sold a show about a female like dating ensemble. And so I always go back and revisit like what was it that like really got us? Mm-hmm. And I feel so devastated to have seen it lost its way because, again, we are so desperate for this content that it is one of Netflix's #1 shows, and it's not cheap to make. And that just shows you how desperate we are for anyone talking about women literally existing and falling down. We'll take it.
Yeah, we crave the discourse because we don't get this kind of female discourse, and it's so interesting because like I feel with the show, like Michael Patrick King owned it and was brilliant in a time and a place, but now when I see what's happening with the characters, I almost wish that they'd like handed over the responsibility to a younger audience or to a younger writers' room, because even on the latest writers' room podcast I listened to, they were saying everyone in the writers' room is actually married or in a long-term relationship. And I thought, well, there's your fucking diversity problem. You've no one who's single in the writers' room.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know their current writers' room, but, like, I've known a couple of writers in there, like, brilliant writer, like, great writers. And, listen, having been in those rooms with the notes you get, like, there are times when someone in a suit has ruined the entire show, and there's nothing you could write or do or say about it. And so, like, who's to say what is going on? I know I'm biased, but it is probably not the writer's fault. It's probably something else weird happening. But I remember when I was in college, one of my acting teachers, like his thing was that he was like best friends with one of the writers on the show. I won't say her name because I'm about to say some shit. But he was like, she writes for Sex and the City. Like, she's kind of like Carrie, right? And he got her to come in and do a lecture to our acting class. And this woman is smoking in our class, right?
Wow.
That's how Carrie Bradshaw she is. And, you know, she's this
and a big ick for you.
And a big ick for me personally. I said, my stepdad's here. And no, so she's this hottie little woman. She's smoking. She's like, oh my God, I'm trying to go on a date and he just wants me to suck his cock. I'm like, what am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yes. And they would bring in this is so crazy. They had this male stand-up comedian on payroll to come in and be like, are men really like this? And he'd be like, yeah, us straight men are definitely doing, we're pulling out our cocks and asking you to come, whatever. That was somehow working though. And to what you're saying, like, you need people living life in order to like write about what's going on in New York City. And I personally know several women who are ravaging that city with their pussies, and they could get in there and they could tell you some stories. And
oh my God, this is what we need. Like maybe Carrie can finally, like, don't get me wrong, I've been lusting after her and Duncan, but it's just because I've wanted her and Aiden to break up. But I want her and Duncan to have sex, and then I want her to have sex with other people. Like, not another relationship. This is what
someone's got to be fucking the city. Like, let's move it along.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so funny. And also, just in general, I feel like it was probably it was a very cool space to be back in the day. I'd imagine it was highly competitive. I can imagine, it was a young room. What do you have a cringe moment of the week? Or is it just the whole thing?
Oh my God. Yes, I'm sure I do. Okay, let me try and think fast of what specifically I want to call out.
I think my cringe moment is Aiden and the T-bones. I know you said you thought it was like, okay, I just thought, and also I don't eat meat, but like to have him show up like that and be literally like, but the T-bones, I could grill these up right now and I can bring them down here sizzling. Aiden, fuck off. Like, you've made your point. You've pissed on the door. Like, we understand you there. But like,
I think that's so, and then just leaving his loose meat out. Also, it is, I think also Sex and the City, like, he loves an on-the-nose sex pun. And I just, like, was he trying to do Aiden offering his meat and shoving his meat on Carrie? Is that what was happening? Because we needed, like, one more line of dialogue.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Didn't land, if that was the case.
I didn't hit. I think my cringe moment is that he sent her a text of lunch at that special place we love. And if my husband, who I love dearly, sent me a text, lunch at that special place we love, I guess I would drive to Taco Bell, but I really would have no idea what he's talking about. And I'm just like, he doesn't say the name. He doesn't say, you know what I mean? Like, this makes no fucking sense.
But that's because you and your husband are in a relationship. Carrie and Aiden have seen each other like 3 times this season. So probably the 2 times they've seen each other, they've
we're
gone
at, like,
there.
one cafe.
Yeah, so it just shows how like teenage their relationship has become, that like only teenagers have special places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not serious long-term relationships. Okay, thank you so much for talking about this show. It's been so much fun to have you on. Will you tell our listeners about your podcast, Glamorous Trash?
Yes, come listen. It's called Glamorous Trash. We recap, discuss, and book club celebrity memoirs, mostly female celebrity memoirs because they're better. But we do make men's moir exceptions. we will have Charlie Sheen's on soon. And we also cover viral articles, like articles that you're just like dying to discuss that you never got a chance to. We just started doing that and I love it so much. I always think of like Bad Art Friend or Cat Person, or just like something in the cut will go viral, like Venmoing brides, and now we discuss that too.
I love the viral art because I'm
so happy.
Often will see headlines of these articles and like not actually read them. I'd rather listen to you guys talk for half an hour about the article than like actually read the article.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the celebrity memoir piece is so cool because what I find is, and so like Trish, typically this is a cinema podcast, right? I've just lost my mind and I'm now doing it just like that every week. And I find I learn so much about Hollywood from your podcast because you're often, of course, memoirs are from famous Hollywood actresses, right? Or people like Debbie Harry who are kind of like in the sphere.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I had to break to one of my friends recently, one of my best friends, I was telling her about your podcast. And I said, wait till you hear about Tatum O'Neal's memoir. And she said, oh, I love Ryan O'Neal. And I said, oh, no. Wait till I tell you about Ryan O'Neal.
Tell me you sent her the link directly and it destroyed her. Okay.
I said, like, you just need to know, like, how jealous he was of his own daughter getting an Oscar nomination.
That he
for
punched
example.
her in
And
the
that's
face?
The least, yeah. The jealousy was the least of his problems. Yeah, he punched her in the face for the nomination. Like, what you reveal about women's lives, and particularly in, like, Hollywood where they're so stifled and they're just basically... They're so measured by their own weight that they're like cattle. And then in all the memoirs, they tell us, the reader, their own weight, which is wild.
I know.
Like you say, every memoir, they'll list their weight off, right?
Yeah,
like,
it
if
is.
We care.
The patterns are unbelievable. The fact that, and it's also, it's not that I'm even mad at them for doing that. I'm so mad at culture for making us know our exact weight in such a way that when you are publishing the fucking details of your life to live on in history forever, that you would tell us that one Easter you were 172 pounds or whatever you were. It's like unbelievable. I hope in the fictional Margaret Thatcher biography, he is listing her weight every year of her life.
Oh God, please. Also, yeah, she was a very thin woman, so be a good read for the Hollywoods, you know?
Yeah.
And also, like, Dave and I often talk about how on our Patreon, we think it's like the safest space on the internet. We've got the nicest group of people, right? Second favorite to my Patreon for me is your Patreon. You call your patrons the cookies, which I love. So I'm a cookie and have been for a number of years. It is just the best, like, because you've got a rabid Patreon. Like, if there's a topic, someone will have started a thread about it in the chat.
Yeah.
It's quite something how phenomenal your Patreon is. It's like a whole, like, you've built a whole ecosystem of this community.
Thank you so much for saying that, and thank you for being a cookie. And I will tell your listeners that when Cathy messaged me, I said, I recognize you from the Patreon comments and you're very smart and witty. But I truly felt like a friendship with you because I know you from those comments. And you know, when and I'm sure as you're doing, like, I'm trying to make the podcast that, like, I'm dying for. Like, I want to hear the books talked about, the articles talked about. And the same with the Patreon. Like, everything is so depressing, but, like, I need a place to discuss the articles, the books, the gossip headlines, just friendship stuff. And my Patreon is my favorite place to be because it is like an ecosystem outside of all this garbage that is so fun.
And it's a safe space with people who are just, like, very kind. I find that across yours and mine. I don't know if that's all of them.
No,
but, like,
it is not. It is very rare. And how many comments have you had to moderate in the history of your Patreon?
One. I've only deleted one.
Same, one. And I think that's very special. And I think it also has to speak to the content you're putting out of the people it's drawing in. I think that is something like I'm most proud of. I try to remind myself too, because, you know, politics have been like so horrible everywhere, but, you know, really in the United States. And even just saying like the most minute things, like you'll get reviews or things. And I have to remind myself, like, this is good because they can't join the Patreon. They can't keep coming to this podcast and join the Patreon because it has to remain like a beautiful, perfect space because it's so special that could exist on the internet right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love your advocacy as well. It's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. It's so
I
hard.
have to tell you something funny about my guest last week, right? And then I'll let you go.
Tell me.
So her name is Caroline O'Donoghue, right? She's an author and she's currently adapting her book for screen. And she hosts a podcast. So your podcast is Glamorous Trash. Her podcast is Sentimental Garbage.
Trust me, when we changed our name, someone then sent me that. And I felt like the biggest asshole. Yeah, but you know, you do all these name searches. And so it's like, I have searched trash. I have searched glamorous. Like, I've done all the searches. I also, when we first launched our podcast, it was called Celebrity Book Club. And my podcast network made me go through so many searches for the name. And no one was named that. And by the time we launched there were so many podcasts named that. So when I went to go do Glamorous Trash, I was being very careful. And then it turns out Sentimental Garbage. And I was like, oh, I got to gouge my eyes out.
No, it's brilliant because first of all, she wasn't offended because she didn't know. I've told her. She's so excited when I told her because I said you're basically twin flames because you're both writers.
Yeah, I love her from afar. I'm afraid to listen because I don't want to be like, wait, sister?
It's like, but it's very different because she has done Sentimental in the City, which I love, where she did Sex in the City during the pandemic. But like, for example, her recent season is actually about like magical realism and like fantasy, and they're talking about fantasy books.
I love that.
So you're talking about different, say, quote unquote garbage or trash. You're just approaching it from a place of like, we love it and we're here in defense of it. And you know, you'll talk about like women's memoirs, which are typically like disregarded but actually can be really brilliant pieces of work. So anyway, I wanted to let you know we've had twin flames on the podcast 2 weeks in a row, and so everyone go and find Chelsea's podcast and also read her book, her memoir, which came out last year. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I am. Is that the second part?
Yeah, but I'm going to anyway. Wow, you got so far. That was incredible.
I love that podcast, and I was only writing to my patrons earlier in our book chat about it. I love that memoir. It's such a good read. It is propulsive. I'm sorry to use Duncan's word, but I read it in one sitting, and it's a heavy book, but because you're a comedy writer, well, I read fast, but you're a comedy writer, and I think the levity that you can bring to very serious topics.
Oh, that is
unusual.
Such a beautiful compliment. Okay, now I accept propulsive. I'll take it. Cathy, that really means a lot. Thank you so much. And it's so nice to hear you talking about the things you love. And I can't wait to go listen to Cinnamon Garbage now. Really, all the trash and garbage we should all be bringing into our lives.
Bring it all together. All right. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thanks, Cathy.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please rate us and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Come and listen to the movie reviews, and we'll see you next Saturday for another And Just Like That recap.
I think he's threatened.
Threatened by Duncan?